are you getting a signal? Facebook is, we're live. Okay, it's just going to run. Well, guys, I'm just sitting here. Okay. Yeah, just relax and we're on in 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
We better get ready.
Where are my headphones?
Going live on azradio.live.
And you have your phone muted.
Are you guys okay with voiceovers afterwards? Like a couple?
Sure.
Okay. That'll be after the show. It usually takes about 10, 15 minutes. And we're looking at 4:55. At 4:59, I'll go on the air, and then it's a 45-minute fun-filled ride.
Yay.
It is. Sounds good. And what I can do is, when we have when this, like I said, when the song should wrap up, I hate doing that with world music, but I'll just say it like this. I mean, what's a good hand signal that I should use to wrap it up? Like this, or how about?
Any variation of that will be fine.
Okay, I'll do this like a conductor. Wrap it up. Okay.
Okay.
Because I know some of your songs are like.
That makes me think of lyrics.
Oh, like this? Okay.
Wrap it up, I'll take it. Wrap it up, I'll take it.
Oh, yeah, Thunderbird, Fabulous T-Birds.
This is Sam and Dave.
Oh, they did a remake. Oh, my gosh. Let's go. Wrap it up. Okay, we'll go on the air. Ready? You've got AZRadio.live's Independent Artist Spotlight Show with today's guests, Sherry Finzer and Will Klipman of Heart Dance Records, brought to you by Kirk Studio for the Performing Arts. Oh, let's hear some noise on the percussion, just to get some ambient noise going here. And Kirk's is a Valley's premier music studio. Call us or go to kirkstudio.com. Sherry Finzer is an award-winning flautist performing artist based in Phoenix, Arizona. Sherry started Heart Dance Records and is also the owner-president of CEO of RS Promotions. She hails from Rochester, New York, and is married to Chuck Finzer. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you Sherry Finzer and percussionist Will Klipman. Thank you guys for being on our show.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I understand you just left a recording session.
Yes,
Was that today?
it was this morning,
Amazing.
and we wrapped it up about
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Wow.
o'clock.
So that you made the beeline right direct to here.
We did.
We appreciate that. I appreciate it totally. Sherry, you were on our show over a year ago when we were still at KTGDSA in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't talk about, it was in my studio. And how did that go? You could just tell us, how did that experience go?
Well, it was a little rough, maybe.
You're being kind on that, being very kind. Because we weren't even on the air, I found out afterwards. But it was so kind, and I said to myself, okay, if I ever have an opportunity to make it up to Sherry Finzer, well, this is my attempt to do that. But
Well, just assume that was a practice run
Right,
for the
right.
show.
And with that show being said, when we went through the whole show, we didn't even have a signal. And after the show, I decided I would hopefully make it up to you. So we're ready for song number 1. And this is featuring what's it called again?
The Udu.
The Udu. And Mr. Klipman is holding a round sort of ceramic item. And Sherry has a flute that has a curve on it. So these are very interesting instruments, ladies and gentlemen. And what we'll do after this song, we'll be discussing the technical aspects of what makes these flutes different than other flutes and the percussion different from other percussion. And this is Udu Voodoo on azradio.live. Sherry Finzer and Will Klipman. My mic was down on that. When I say Sherry right away, it almost sounds like a bad word without putting the Y at the end of it. Sherry Finzer. But that was beautiful. That was great music, guys, honestly.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
It was wonderful. And what I was going to ask you about that was, are all of you award winners of some sort?
We are.
Yes, Will is the biggest award winner.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Well, he's been nominated for a Grammy 7 times.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Now you're wondering why I call you sir.
Yeah, well, that and $2.50 will get me a black coffee at Starbucks.
Well, people in music and in the industry can appreciate Grammys. I mean, I do. And anybody listening and everybody here at the studio. And when you hear the word Grammy, it says something, sir. So definitely, most certainly.
Yeah, the G word definitely sparks a response.
Oh, 7 of them? But 7 G words? Oh my gosh, 7 Grammys. Wow. Some of us are hoping to get 1 Grammy. 1 Grammy. What artists were you working with when you got these Grammys? Were they solo artists or
Well,
yourself?
the one that I'm most proud of is a solo project of mine called Pathfinder, and those are all my own compositions. Various other artists that I've worked with that whose albums achieved that recognition are Carlos Nakai, who's a very well-known Native American flutist, Robert Tree Cody, who's also a Native American flutist, a woman named Gentle Thunder, who plays hammered dulcimer, and native flute. And the other ones are escaping me at the moment, but that's kind of a who's who.
Right. And anyone in that world, is it world music, sir?
6 of the 7 nominations were in New Age.
New Age.
Oddly enough, I think of it as contemporary world music, but somehow it ended up in the New Age category.
Right. And with that category, does that mean it gets more airplay with that category in the sense that when they assign a certain genre for some music, is that for the purpose of, mass appeal for the world, calling it New Age?
I think it's where the where the Grammy committees decide to place it for award purposes. It really doesn't have anything to do with radio airplay, although that would lead it to be on stations like Sirius XM and so on.
Very good. And Sherry, you started Heart Dance Records. Heart Dance, that's a great name.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you think of the heart in dancing. So,
Yes.
when did you begin that label?
Well, it started with just my music. 2006, I believe, I started the label. And for a few years, it was just my music until I started working and collaborating with other artists. One of those is guitarist Darren Mahoney that you know of. And we brought Will on board in what year is this? It's 2018, 2016, I think.
I think so.
To do an album called Trialogue that also won an award from Zone Music Reporter for Best Acoustic Album. So sometimes we get thrown into other categories, like Will was talking about New Age and Contemporary Instrumental, so that one happened to be acoustic. But I started really bringing a variety of artists onto the label just a few years ago, about 3 years ago, and we've grown to about 30 artists now.
Neat.
Yeah.
Is that 30 albums?
More than 30 albums.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you guys have Christmas albums? We're playing Christmas music.
Yes.
If you listen to our station, we've got the edge on other stations. We're playing your Christmas album. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, so 2 years ago, we put together a collaborative album with artists from around the state of Arizona. So thank you for playing and supporting that.
I thought it would be funny to start playing it in September because you know how they start in October. I thought, okay, we're going to do one up on that. Well, your song 2 is Count Basie's Ghost. What can you say about Count Basie's Ghost? And kiddies, that's Count Basie, the gentleman that played piano. So let's hear about this. Oh, that's just phenomenal. Wow.
Wow is a good word.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is kind of a fast-paced entertainment show, which it isn't. But, we got music news for today. This week's Tuesday teacher highlight is Christy Hanno, clarinet teacher. Christy received her bachelor of music degree in clarinet performance at Drake University at Des Moines, Iowa, and is currently working on her second year as a clarinet performance student in the doctoral program at Arizona State University. Congratulations, Christy Hanno. Don't forget to respondez s'il vous plaît to unlimited pizza and entertainment for this Saturday, September 22nd at the Oregon Stop Pizza. Music begins at noon. The band Mills Inn will be on our show doing a live set for a special Saturday 7 p.m. broadcast, fun for all. And if you want to get involved with Fall Frenzy, we're looking for students to perform for the Fall Frenzy on Sunday, September 30th. You want to join, send us an audition video at info@kirkstudio.com. Friday is September 21st is International Day of Peace Day. And lastly, we still haven't had a new album yet by the band Led Zeppelin this decade. And that's this week's music news for the 20th day of September 2018. Now, I know that you both wanted to talk and go into the Facebook Live to kind of describe to our students and our fans about the interest aspects of your instruments. Is that now a good time to do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you can utilize the live stream any way you'd like and go ahead and take it from here.
Well,
yeah.
the percussion, just a world tour, all instruments that are indigenous to cultures around the world. The first one I played is the udu. That's a ceramic drum that's indigenous to West Africa. Mine are all custom made by different makers around the country. That's my favorite one that you heard. And his name is Udi Patootie. This drum that I'm holding here is called the tar, this large frame drum. And it's indigenous to North Africa. I had a chance to tour in Morocco a few years ago and fell in love with that sound. And then Sherry fell in love with it, so I use that quite a bit in our music. And I'll be featuring that on the next cut that we play. The box that I'm sitting on, which you just heard on that song that we just finished, is called the cajon. And that's indigenous to two different places, the Andes of Peru and also the Caribbean islands. And it's basically a big box with a hole cut in the back. So it's a pretty simple instrument, but it produces a lot of interesting timbres. And this drum sitting on the floor, which we'll get to in a moment, is called the djembe. Mine is named James. That's D-J-A-M-E-S. And the interesting thing about James is that this particular djembe was carved from a the trunk of a tree that was grown to be a drum by a drum-making family in Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, who have been making drums since 1200 A.D.
Can I lift it up for the camera?
Sure. These all go.
He's letting me touch his drum.
These all go way. Only you. These go back centuries, if not millennia, and so do I. I sometimes feel like I was born out of my time, so it's quite natural for me to play all these acoustic indigenous instruments. And Sherry has a variety of wonderful flutes.
Just a quick rundown. I started out on the concert C flute that you would see in a band or orchestra, which this is the size that most people are familiar with. However, this is a different color for those watching. They can be made out of different materials, different metals, nickel, silver, gold, platinum. This is made out of a composite material, a plastic material, which allows them to make them different colors. So I have the pink one with me today. And I started playing these for my outdoor performances, so I wasn't taking my good flutes out and getting those banged up. But to go down the line, I think hopefully they can see them in the camera there. There's another C flute here that I'll play that's got a unique sound. We'll play 2 songs from now. I don't know if they can see it, but the head joint's a little bit different. It's got some funky things on here, which, well, you'll hear that later. And then the next one down is the alto flute, which is a 4th lower than the concert C flute. I play the one with the curved head joint just because it makes the reach a little easier for me. The white one is also composite material. That is a bass flute, which is 1 octave lower than the C flute. And then what we're going to play next for you is on the contrabass flute, which that's made out of metal, and I'll grab that in just a second. But that would be 2 octaves lower than the concert C flute. So that's the largest flute that I currently have.
Is that the largest flute in the world?
No.
Oh, I can't imagine a larger flute than that.
There's actually sub-contras, double contras, and hyperbass contras.
That's good.
They're huge. They're really
Very
huge.
cool.
So people can look those up on the internet and find
Absolutely.
pictures of those.
Absolutely. Now Sherry is reaching for this flute, and Will is reaching for his percussion. And this song is called La Brea, song number 3 by Sherry Finzer, award-winning Sherry Finzer, and also award-winning Will Klipman. You're listening to AZ Radio Dots Live, the Independent Artist Spotlight Show with Sherry Finzer and Will Klipman. We do have new music on AZ Radio Live. It sounds like we'll be adding radio-friendly Andres de Bride. We'll give your songs a listen. Thank you for sending them to us. Papa Cassettes and Blind Doan, thank you for sending your music, but we just can't play it because it's not radio ready. And I promise we'll get in the band. 69 is on the air. It's just been a very busy week. And Sherry Finzer gave us about 7 or 8 albums. Remember when you were on our show? You gave me a stack of albums, and finally I took the time to download them. And Mr. Klipman, believe me, if you give us one of your albums, if you're not contractually obligated, we'd be more than happy to play your music, sir.
I just happen to have some for you.
Oh, wonderful. Can you sign them?
Sure.
Oh, that's even better.
I have my special signing pens, and they make the album sound even better.
Wow, that is true. We've got Eric Ramsey signed us a few albums, and let's hear Sean Royer. You know Sean Royer, don't you, Sherry?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, this is what his album looks like. It's really good. He did 20 Hours for Memphis, but we have some artists on the show, so it's cool.
Nice.
Now, let me get back to some questions because they're very neat.
Can I interject for just a moment? Will and I have 4 singles set up for release. The first one came out the end of August, and that one was called Evening at Angkor Wat. And we have one that's dropping this month, the last Friday of this month, which is
The 28th.
28th, which I use the contrabass flute on. So if listeners like the contrabass flute, this one's called Kilauea Rain. And when we're in the recording studio, we get to add layers. So it's not just always one drum and one flute. So on that particular song, you may have heard when I played, the flute's quite noisy when you're closing the keys. So we actually used the key clicks, as we call them, as raindrops in the song. So it
Very
came
neat.
out really interesting.
So the raindrops were actual percussive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Flute percussion.
And that's the pads just clicking back and forth, causing
Yeah.
that sound.
Yeah, I can
That would be neat, yeah.
give you an
And we'll
example.
put some reverb on it. But that is neat because sound is a theater of the mind. I mean, it's interesting how you get sounds just out of things like that. It's great.
Well, that's very true of our music. I think of these as elemental trance groove incantations.
Wow.
So-
Spell that. No, I'm sorry. Obviously, I'm not as educated as you are, but I'm impressed. I can be impressed. Okay, these are the raindrops. I'll try to get some volume on that.
Okay. So you can hear pitches to them. So we just used a lot of that, and we layered that, and it ended up sounding like a soft, gentle rain turning into more of a heavy shower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you did that, how many tracks would you overdub for something like that? Because that was the beginning, obviously, of the rain. Da, 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 da. And then I am assuming it would get faster, like for
Yeah, I think
deluge.
we had 2 or 3 tracks in there.
Yeah, and there was finger padding on a higher pitched flute too, and of course all the percussion. I was playing a traditional Hawaiian hula drum called the ipu, which is a big gourd, and that gave it a very authentic sound. We saw it as being the eruption of Kilauea volcano, and then the coming of the storm and the rain, kind of the cool rain, kind of falling into the hot lava.
So for every one of these shows, or every one of these songs, is it telling a story from beginning to end, essentially, or is it just beautiful sounds, or is it actually recreating an event? That's really neat.
Well, I think we definitely have a vision of what we see. We were recording today, and mostly what we do is improv in the studio, and that's how we create.
Wow.
And, I was seeing that we were like standing on top of a mountain looking down over a city. That's kind of what I heard from what we created today.
That is true art, true art. As a jazz musician, they would sit there and they call it ad-libbing or improvisation. So that same concept can apply to all forms of music, essentially. Wow. Well, we have song number 4, and we enlighteningly called it Buzzy.
We called it Buzzy.
And that's because we use the flute with the cellophane.
Yeah, it's made by a company called Briccialdi out of Italy. And this was the first time I'd used it. I just got it like a week ago.
And you just recorded with it for the first time
We
today.
recorded with it. It looks a little messy right now.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, essentially it has a membrane over it that vibrates, and it's just like a plastic wrap.
Yep. But you know what's neat? You made it sound like an accordion, violin, and what other instruments? with it?
Harmonica.
So listen for that, everybody.
So
As you-
hopefully it works.
it-
So sometimes it's a little temperamental.
Sherry Fencer on azradio.live with Will Clipman. Okay, future guests on our show. On Thursday, September 27th, we have KSPA students Madison Holmes and Cash Westhoff, each with their own show on the Independent Artist Spotlight Show. Madison Holmes at 5 p.m. and Cash Westhoff at 6:30 p.m. Then October 4th, we have Scottsdale favorite Natalie Merrill, also at 5 p.m. The 8th through the 13th of October, our studios are closed. No show that week. But we return in force the following week on Thursday, October 18th, when we'll have a double feature picture show with the Paparazzi Girls and April Ann at 5 and 7 p.m. respectively. And that is what is happening in October only on azradio.live. Now, are you familiar with our show at all? Because, let me make sure volume is there. I can hear you guys, right? Okay. This is the part of the show that's kind of, I call the fun part.
Okay.
Okay.
Were we not allowed to have fun up until now? Because I freely violated that rule.
Well, I'm just sweating bullets, honestly. So sweating bullets. Usually it's a lot hotter in here, to be honest. But no, it's an honor to be here, to be honest. But this is the part where we kind of let our hair down, say, for instance, and we just kind of enjoy some words.
Okay.
Now, when I put this together, I wasn't sure who I was speaking with, but I'll just see what happens here. Okay. Sherry and Will, have you ever toured on the road?
Yes.
Yes.
Single or double beds?
Single.
Very good.
It was really crowded with two of us in a single. I kid. I'm joking.
Yeah, well, I've been 5 people in one bed at one time. I mean, during my day. But now here's the next one. Does 99.9 KEZ play your Christmas music?
I don't believe so.
I think they could.
Okay.
Now they do. And if you could play any venue in Phoenix, where would they? Well, let's see, how did I word this? If you could play any venue in Phoenix, where would that or they be? So many venues, possibly.
I would say the MIM, the Musical Instrument Museum Theater, which indeed we have played, but we want to go back as a duo.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very cool. And we've had, we had Laura Berman. She was at the MIM. And what do you think about the listening room?
I like the listening room.
Yeah, I've been there once.
Celebrity Theater?
I've played the Celebrity Theater with the stage rotating, which is a little disorienting, but
Yeah, dizzy. And what is your favorite $1 Taco Bell value meal?
Oh dear, we don't eat it.
I don't eat Taco Bell. I hope they're not one of your sponsors.
Not yet, actually. We have no sponsors. Lastly, this is the best. Trump or Bernie Sanders?
Bernie!
I always refrain from talking about politics. It's a bit
No, I know it's a dangerous realm when we get into that, because then we get into healthcare. All right, now I was advised, how many flutes do you have as a whole?
I don't have that many. I have a friend that has over 100 flutes, and there's a lot of Native American flutists that have hundreds,
Wow.
hundreds of flutes. But I have maybe just a couple others that aren't here with me today. So,
Yep.
less than 10.
Yeah, I was reading how a studio drummer will have, like you said, hundreds of snare drums. Guitarists will have, dozens and dozens of guitars just to be prepared for the studio environment. That's pretty serious when it comes to studio recording. How about drums?
I have over 100 instruments in my Pan Global percussive palette. Some of them are drums, some of them are other kinds of instruments.
Very cool.
And I keep them all in a building at the back of my property that we call the Boom Boom Room.
Well, I hope it's heavily armed, because
It's protected by violet flame.
and can you describe what that is? Well, that's probably spiritual or something.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
a spiritual energy. But in all my years of touring, I've never had anything bad happen to any of my instruments. And they've been on planes in Russia and Morocco and Germany and who knows where. So I really believe in putting out a positive vibe. And I think you attract your tribe with your vibe. So
That's very true.
Good.
And we have song number 5. How would you describe this song? It's because you're playing the pink flute? So-
Yes.
Okay.
So this will be the highest flute as far as pitch that you've heard yet today, because I like to specialize in the lower flutes. For me, they're more healing in those registers, I think. So yeah, this is the size you would see in band. So it's going to be a little bit higher pitched.
Very beautiful. That's great. Now I got to ask, what is the average length of your music? It ranges from 5 to 10, 15 minutes, right?
We're doing kind of shorter versions of things today, and in this project we're working on right now, the pieces tend to be more in the 6 to 7 minute range.
Very cool. How does that translate to commercial radio or airplay? Is that the normal airplay for like satellite radio, the ambient music world?
It depends on the station. Satellite radio, I don't think the length matters that much. But some of the FM stations, the shows that only are formatted to an hour or 2 hour shows, they actually prefer some shorter songs so they can fit more songs and more artists into the format.
I mean, the whole purpose of this show, and when we play your music, we play them in their whole entirety because the listener has to hear the journey they take when they listen to this beautiful music, because that's what we do.
Thank you.
We play a 3-minute pop tunes, then we'll play a 8 to 9 minute Sherry Finzer beautiful song. So,
That's very cool. Thank you.
well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Sherry Finzer and Will Klipman, for being our guests on our Independent Artist Spotlight Show. AZRadio.live is brought to you by Kirk Studio for the Performing Arts. If you want the pros to teach you or your family, then think kirkstudio.com. And Sherry and Will, we're out of here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. See ya.
ya.
You knew how to do that? I'm impressed. Okay, we are off there. Okay, I'm going to shut off Facebook Live and then that, and we'll get 2 voiceovers in 10 minutes. Is that okay, gentlemen and ladies?
Sure.
Okay.
Gentleman and lady. I like
Well,
that.
ladies and
That's good.
gentlemen.
I like that.